History is written by the winners, but it is often edited by the fearful. For over 3,000 years, a woman who once held the power of the sun was systematically deleted. Her temples were torn down. Her statues were ground into dust. The ancients wanted her forgotten, as if she were a fever dream Egypt needed to wake up from. My name is Red, and today we are hunting a ghost. We're looking for a woman whose face is world famous, yet whose life remains a shadow. She wasn't just a trophy wife. She was a religious radical, a warrior who broke the world's most powerful priesthood. And, if the clues are right, the secret pharaoh who ruled the Nile when everyone else failed. Why did the most powerful woman in history vanish? Why did her successors try to kill her memory? And where is her body hidden? Grab your gear. We're headed into the sands of Amarna to uncover the truth behind the queen who erased the gods.
To understand the revolution, we have to understand the world into which she stepped. In 1370 BC, Egypt was not just a country, it was the center of the known universe. Gold was said to be as common as dust. And the pharaoh was not just a king, he was a living god. But the power wasn't just with the pharaoh. In the shadows of the temples at Karnak, the priests of Amun held the real keys to the kingdom. They owned the land, the grain, and the souls of the people. Into this powder keg of politics and religion walks a young woman.
Her name is a clue and a riddle. Neferneferuaten Nefertiti. It literally translates to "a beautiful woman has come." But where did she come from? For a century, scholars argued she was a foreign export. They pointed to a princess named Tutankhamun from the Mitanni kingdom in modern-day Syria. The theory was simple. She was a diplomatic bride sent to cement a peace treaty. But there's a problem with that. Nefertiti doesn't look foreign in her early depictions. She looks deeply, culturally Egyptian. This leads us to a more Game of Thrones style theory. Many modern Egyptologists believe she was the daughter of a man named Ai was the master of horse and a high-ranking official. If Nefertiti was his daughter, her marriage to the crown prince wasn't a romantic accident. It was a calculated family takeover.
She married Amenhotep IV when they were both likely in their mid-teens. In ancient Egypt, royal marriages were cold, political contracts. But something was different here. Look at the art from their first 5 years. It's shocking. In 3,000 years of Egyptian history, we almost never see a pharaoh showing affection. But here is Nefertiti sitting on her husband's lap. Here they are, leaning in for a kiss while riding a chariot at high speed. They weren't just a couple, they were a brand. They were the power couple of the Bronze Age. But this public displays of affection weren't just for show. They were the first cracks in a religious wall that had stood for a millennium.
5 years into their reign, the honeymoon ended, and the war began. Amenhotep IV did the unthinkable. He declared that the hundreds of Egyptian gods, led by the mighty Amun-Ra, were dead. They were fake. In their place, there would be only one, the Aten, the sun disk. This was the birth of monotheism, but it was a violent birth. The pharaohs sent out armies of stonemasons across the country. Their mission? Find the name Amun on every temple, every tomb, even on private jewelry, and chisel it out. To finalize the break, the king changed his name to Akhenaten, the spirit of the Aten. And Nefertiti? She didn't just watch. She changed her name too, becoming Neferneferuaten Nefertiti. She became the high priestess of this new, terrifying religion.
Imagine leaving the luxury of the capital city of Thebes to move into the middle of a literal wasteland. That's exactly what they did.
they moved 200 miles north to a site now called Amarna. They built a city from scratch in less than 3 years. How? By using talatat, small, standardized stone blocks that could be carried by a single man. It was like ancient Lego. They built massive open-air temples so the sun's rays could hit the altars directly. No more dark, smoky rooms, no more hidden priests. But Amarna was a gilded cage. While the king and queen lived in palaces with painted floors and gardens, the workers were dying. Recent excavations of the Amarna cemeteries show a population that was malnourished, overworked, and suffering from scurvy. The city of light was built on the broken backs of the poor.
This is where Nefertiti's image changes. The art of Amarna is weird. There's no other word for it. The king is shown with a long, drooping face, a pot belly, and wide hips. For years, doctors thought he had a genetic disorder. But look at Nefertiti. She is often drawn with the exact same features. Why? Because they weren't trying to look human. They were trying to look like the Aten, a being that was both male and female, the creator of all. Nefertiti wasn't just a queen anymore. She was a living goddess.
As we move into the 12th year of their reign, something happens. Nefertiti's power begins to eclipse even her husband's. We found reliefs in Amarna that should not exist. They show Nefertiti in the smiting pose. This is a very specific image in Egypt. The ruler holding a mace, about to crush the head of a foreign enemy. In 3,000 years, this was a king's-only club. And yet, there she is, wearing the blue crown of war. Then, there is the Durbar of Year 12, a massive international festival. It is the peak of their power. But then, tragedy strikes. A plague sweeps through the city. We see images of the royal family mourning the death of their daughter, Akhenaten. The grief in the stone is palpable.
And then, she's gone. Around year 13 or 14, Nefertiti's name stops appearing in the official records. For decades, historians thought she died of the plague, or that Akhenaten kicked her out of the palace for a younger wife. But in 2012, a tiny inscription was found in a quarry. It dates to year 16, just 1 year before Akhenaten's death, and it mentions Nefertiti as the great royal wife. She didn't die. She didn't leave. She was promoted.
This brings us to the most controversial theory in history. When Akhenaten dies, a mysterious pharaoh named Neferneferuaten takes the throne for 3 years. For a long time, we thought this was a man, but the grammar in the inscriptions is female. She is ruling Egypt. Is it possible that Nefertiti did what only a few women had ever done? Did she put on the false beard, take up the crook and flail, and rule as a king to protect the throne for her young stepson, Tutankhamun? If she did, she was the one who began the transition back to the old ways, trying to save Egypt from the chaos her husband had created.
For 3,000 years, her name was a footnote. Then came December 6th, 1912. German archaeologist Ludwig Borchardt was digging in the ruins of a house in Amarna, the workshop of a sculptor named Thutmose. In the corner of a room, buried in the dust, he saw a flash of blue and gold. He pulled out the most famous face in the world, the Nefertiti Bust. It was so perfect, so lifelike, that Borchardt simply wrote in his diary, "Description is useless. Must be seen." But why was it in a workshop and not a tomb? Most believe it was a teaching model. If you look closely, her left eye is missing an inlay. It wasn't damaged. It was never there. It was a 3D reference for students to copy.
But where is the real Nefertiti? We have the bust, but we don't have the body. In 2015, world-renowned Egyptologist Nicholas Reeves proposed a mind-blowing theory. he noticed straight lines in the plaster of Tutankhamun's tomb. He believes Tutankhamun was buried in a hurry in the outer chamber of what was actually Nefertiti's tomb. He thinks she is still there, resting behind a hidden wall, surrounded by her gold, just inches away from the millions of tourists who visit King Tut every year. Radar scans have been done. Some say they see a void. Others say there's nothing but solid rock. The Egyptian government has been hesitant to drill into the most famous tomb on Earth. And who can blame them?
Nefertiti was more than just a beautiful face. She was a revolutionary who tried to change the soul of a nation. She was a mother, a goddess, and likely a king. Her enemies tried to erase her, to grind her memory into the sand. But they failed. Through one piece of painted limestone, she conquered time itself. But what do you think? Was she the true power behind the throne? And should the bust be returned to Egypt from the museum in Berlin? Let me know your theories in the comments. If you want to keep diving into the mysteries of the ancient world with me, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I'm Red, and I'll see you in the next one.